Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Fitfam podcast. This is Miss Natural Olympia, Hilary.
And this is Doug, the Formulator.
So today we actually just got back from Florida, met with a bunch of doctors there that we train, met with some of our concierge clients. Super fun.
That was a great trip.
Birthday.
My birthday, thanks.
Our anniversary.
Our anniversary.
22 years?
22 years.
That's awesome.
I think I've officially been with you longer than I've been without you in my life.
Ooh, I like that thought.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
And so today is very unique, and we really want to get your feedback on this, right? Because we're kind of going off into our doctor world a little bit.
I think people will like this one. This is something that we've been seeing more and more often recently, and so we just thought this would be a good one to discuss in case other people are dealing with this. And the question is,
do we need some exterminating?
That's a good one right before Halloween too. It kind of seems like a little creepy-ish.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about parasites. Actually, interestingly enough, we've had a couple of clients, not just one, a couple of clients that have dealt with parasites recently, and then also staff members and friends. So it's been all over the place recently. And what's really interesting about it is that we've kind of narrowed down the source of them from different places and sources, right?
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
That's kind of cool.
And we have doctors all around the nation experiencing the same thing. And so we thought,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this is a big issue. And we'll get to in a little bit my opinion on why it's happening. But the fact is, it is happening. But
It is happening.
The thing is that there's so many different views on parasites when we
Right.
talk to people, especially in America.
Right. So extremists on one side say, you live in the United States, you don't have to worry about parasites, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and you get that a lot.
A lot.
Like,
Yeah.
really, very few people have them.
Yeah.
But then on the other end,
Right.
you get people that says everybody has them, no matter what, like every single person, and you got to do all this crazy stuff to get rid of them, right? Like, jokingly stand on your head, do all this, do all that. Meaning it's just so extreme that no matter what, you have them. And that's the two extremes.
Right. But most people say, yeah, you might have a parasite, but the only way you would have a parasite is if you've maybe traveled to a foreign country. So
That is the most common, right?
Yeah. No, it is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're talking about, parasites, worms, anything that you can think of, that these bugs that don't belong in our bodies.
Just these invaders.
Right. And what's funny is that there's even some cultures, and it even was big in America, believe it or not, for a while.
I know what you're about to say.
Like that people to lose weight, they would actually
Tapeworm.
take tapeworms, right? Like ingest them, and they would inhabit their stomach and eat a lot of food. And
Dude,
people
I
lose weight.
hate that thought.
Is
That is the creepiest. All I can think of, isn't there like that movie where that thing like starts climbing out of its mouth? Like that's all I can think about when I think that's so gross. Anyways, so what happens if
Did
you? Is it alien? No, it's just gross. No, it was that. Anyways, so what happens if you try the tapeworm diet? What are the risks? What are the side effects?
Yeah, that's all bad.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's good.
And what's funny is that it got popular really back in the 80s, and the problem was that they were growing. That's what you don't remember, and and they would grow, and the problem is they'd get big, and they'd truly have to go in and get them out of people, or they'd go on these flushes and get worms coming out, like giant worms and stuff, and people realizing that's bad because when you get infested, it would go all bad in the system. And some people died from it.
I don't know if
don't recommend it.
No, don't recommend it. I don't know if other people think the same thing, but what I don't understand is if it's a tapeworm inside you and it's consuming what you're supposed to be consuming, but you're not consuming it, but the thing inside you is consuming it, how are you losing weight?
So what's happening is you're eating the food and they're taking it all, so it's not going to your system. So you're actually in it. What happens is that you actually are in the state to where you're nutrient deficient and calorie deficient, and you actually start wasting away. But people will lose weight at first, but then after a while, the tapeworms are eating all of the food, and so now
isn't the tapeworm getting heavier?
Yes,
So how are you losing weight?
because you're losing so much muscle in that. And then after a while, it
Okay.
actually reverts and you actually aren't losing any more because the tapeworms are getting.
Okay.
It's not popular
That
anymore.
makes more sense.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
So all bad. And that's not really what we're talking about today. That was just an example of like the extremes. Even some people have gone to like, oh, these can be for our benefit, because the truth is that some parasites don't cause as many problems outwardly as others. Like
Yeah.
people say, well, if I have a parasite, I know it, I'm super sick, but that's not necessarily the case. But we actually know the truth between the extremists saying that, everyone has them, and the ones that saying no one does, versus the normal public thinking, okay, well, if I went to a foreign country, maybe type thing. And
So it's the CDC's job, right, to monitor these numbers and let us know about how many people within the United States actually have parasites or deal with parasites,
yeah,
right?
Center for Disease Control in America, World Health Organization overall. And so we have data, we have numbers, and the CDC, though, even in America, has warned us lately.
Yeah, so it warns of common parasites plaguing millions in the US, which actually isn't super surprising considering the amount recently that we've really witnessed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we know that even our government organizations are telling us, look, there's a problem and we need to be aware of it.
So how do you know, like, what are some of the side effects? How would you know? And I know it's not always, you can't always pinpoint it to a parasite, but what are some of the common side effects that you would experience if you did have a parasite?
Good question. So because there's different types of parasites, some people don't feel anything and they have a parasite, right?
Right.
And eventually it'll start showing up as thyroid problems, low iron, things like that. And then others, depending on the parasite or how much it's infested, like how many of them, they're just tired all the time and they can't find the answer. It's just constantly tired.
Yes.
And others, depending on the parasite, will have like stomach issues, bloating, gas, indigestion that they know aren't related to eating bad foods or something like that. It's just out of the blue, all of a sudden.
Nothing's changed within their diet.
Right.
But
and
all of a
gut
sudden.
just doesn't feel right. And then there's ones that, like super sick.
Yeah.
Like parasite, and they're just down because the parasite truly is causing issues.
Well, and I feel like we've also seen where a parasite has wreaked havoc on just hormonal issues and clarity of mind and clarity of purpose and that kind of thing. What is that all about?
That's actually the biggest thing right now, and that is a specific type of parasite that's coming in. And it's basically disrupting what we call the endocrine system, right? And the hormones. And like you mentioned, because we've had some of our concierge clients and we've had many doctors that have called in saying, hey, we have patients that we had going perfectly, hormonal balance, got them going.
That's exactly what we were experiencing.
Yep. Fatty acids and macros are perfect, have the right micronutrients, vitamins, minerals. We do blood work, estrogen, testosterone.
Trajectory was great.
And then out of the blue.
Yeah.
Just going crazy.
So honestly, though, that kind of, to me, is a really good indication that you are maybe dealing with a parasite. When everything is status quo, you're functioning really well, everything is flowing in the correct direction, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a halt. There's something. Yeah. So
that's a good point, is like there's no reason for this change in how I'm feeling.
Yes.
Right. And so a lot of times it can be a parasite. So now there's a couple ways to find out if you have a parasite.
Yes.
Right.
And we love blood work.
And we love blood work.
We love blood work.
And you can do the stool test. And that is one if you want to find out what type of parasite. It's just not a fun test to do, right? You have to give them a stool sample, and then they go and actually get the worms and parasites out of it and say which kind it is. And luckily you don't have to do that, but still it's kind of. And so
if I had a parasite, I would maybe want to know. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. But the easy route is just to get blood work done. And in your blood work, we have white blood cells.
Right.
And so we look at 3 different types of white blood cells to determine, we were talking before, whether it's bacteria, virus, or a parasite.
Right.
And so, in fact, we were just showing someone's live blood in Miami.
Yeah.
Right. And we're looking at the neutrophils. Mm-hmm. And those are the white blood cells that go around and engulf the bad guys, go through what's called phagocytosis. And we're showing them on the screen. Yeah. They kind of look like jellyfish. Mm-hmm. But neutrophils in blood work, lab blood work, if it's high, then we know, right, that it's bacteria.
Right.
And so high bacteria issues if neutrophils are high. Lymphocytes, if those are high, then we know it's more viral. So viruses will cause your lymphocytes to be high. High bacteria would be neutrophil. We've had some friends we thought might be a parasite, and it was actually bacteria, right, from Mexico.
Right.
But the ones for parasites,
I don't know if I can say it. Eosinophil?
perfect, eosinophil. And so we look at eosinophils, and the majority of the time, if they're high, we know that there's a parasite.
So say it.
Eosinophil.
Eosinophils are your parasites. Lymphocytes are your viruses. And neutrophils are your bacteria.
100%.
Okay.
Yep. And so the body has the different white blood cells that it uses for different things. And that's how come when we see an elevation in one versus the other, we can tell what it is. So can I get into my opinion?
Yeah. Are you going to talk about your opinion why parasites are
So bad.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So we know they're bad. Like, right? It's not just us. Center for
Not
Disease
bad
Control.
as in terrible, bad as in plentiful. As in a lot.
Plentiful.
Why they're coming back. Okay.
Good way to look at it. And again, Center for Disease Control, our thousands of doctors that we train around the nation, just telling us how bad it is. In fact, we just did a big training on it for the whole month because our doctors were saying, look, we're just seeing this more than ever. What's up? So opinion is that there's a lot of people that go through, it's called long COVID. In other words, you got COVID and there's these lingering effects. And for quite a while, they've been upper respiratory effects, right? Breathing problems, continued cough, sinus, that type thing.
Yeah.
And now what we're seeing is that that's dropping down, and it's still kind of like the lingering effects of COVID, but now it's more in the gut, bowels, hormones, being able to, gut affected, probiotics, UTI infections in women. And it's becoming a really huge deal, but it's like it's shifted. And so the opinion and my belief is that, we're having a problem and the acidity is getting worse here. Whether it's lingering from COVID, from the vax, you can go down any of those rabbit holes, but we know that that's happening. The shift.
So are you saying it's been here and now it's just going lower and lower? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And it's creating an environment that's easier for parasites, bacteria, and viruses to come play.
So just because it's been residing here for so long and the body's been fighting it for so long, it's creating more of a pathway for the parasites to get through. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yep, that's 100%. And whether that, is true or not, the bottom line is we know that it's a big issue right now. Right. So that was just my opinion on why I think it is happening in such a big issue. And so just like there's different white blood cells that, come up for bacteria, viruses, parasites, there's different parasites, but parasites in general.
Yeah, so let me read it exactly. A parasite is an organism that lives on or in a host organism and gets its food from said organism.
That's it.
Right.
And so that's simple. You have bugs living in you that are taking your food or taking you.
Yeah.
Using you.
Yeah, if they're not getting the food they want, they'll just take it from you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's really the key. And so, what was that show where the guy lived in the guy and he was talking to him? And,
I don't know, but I liked it.
Remember? And then he's like, I could eat you, but no, feed me, that type thing.
Oh, I don't
remember. It's a Marvel thing.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
And so, anyways, it's they want food. They're alive, and a lot of times they'll eat your food, or depending on the type of species they will eat you, and that's what's causing a lot of the problems that are out there today. So, back to this.
The 3 different kinds.
Venom was the name of the show.
Okay.
Venom.
Yes. Now I know what you're talking
show.
about. Oh, I think Venom was the one I was talking about. We're like, come on,
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Let's go.
terrible.
Okay.
Anyways.
All right. So on this, there's 3 main parasites: protozoas, helminths, protozoa, helminth, right? Not a helmet, helminth,
Okay.
like minth,
It's not easy to say.
and ectoparasites.
Okay.
And so when you do a stool test, they can tell you whether you have protozoa, helminth, or an ectoparasite. But what we're going to share with you today is most of the time it doesn't matter.
Most of the time they're treated
The same way.
nutritionally the same way, correct?
Absolutely. If you're going to go about it naturally. And I want to share with you as we get into this that in 30 years of in this field, we haven't found a parasite we couldn't treat naturally, which is really cool.
Really
Sometimes it's great that you've got Western medicine because
for
you
sure.
only go so far, right?
Right.
Things have gotten so bad. But when it comes to parasites, so far, 100% successful nutritionally.
Okay.
So why it's important to know the three is really to get to when we talk about what you can do lifestyle nutritionally to fix it. Because you'll go into some groups in our world, in the health world, holistic world, they're like, oh, we got to find out what type of parasite, and you got to take all this stuff if it's one of them, this stuff if it's another. And that's not true, as you'll see. So what's important is that when you're looking to destroy something that's alive in the body, right? A live bacteria, a live parasite, for example, then knowing there's 3 different parasites, all we care about is what are the parasites made of? How can we penetrate their outer skin or skeleton, right? Whether it's an exoskeleton, whatever it might be, so that they can be destroyed.
Yeah.
And so we get to know each of the parasites. So the protozoa parasite affects 3.7 million people in the United States.
Wow.
And so only 30% of the people from this one actually develop symptoms. And it's like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so then there's one that's in this family that's
Don't ask me to say that one.
Toxoplasma gondii, but it infects a lot of people. Like how many people?
60 million.
60
That's
million
gnarly.
people. And it's the parasite. And the reason 60 million people have this parasite is because it's found like in undercooked meat, right?
Okay.
And even some unwashed fruits and vegetables for people to be plant-based. So you can still get this parasite really easily. And that's why it's so common is you get it from, foods. And it's just not washing food, not cooking the meat enough.
Now, if you had a parasite, one of these parasites, and you didn't specifically do something nutritionally to get rid of them, they could still be gotten rid of eventually.
That's why your body makes the eosinophils, right? Your white blood cells. And that's a really good point.
Yes.
Is a lot of times the only thing that you feel from a parasite is you lose energy. And it's not so much the parasites the thing that's draining your energy.
It's your body creating more white blood cells to help get rid of.
Yeah, and it takes a ton of energy to make white blood cells.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so, again, a lot of these guys are just taking up hosts, man. They're just like living, and they're trying to freeload, right? And so they're not causing issues, although some of them cause issues.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the thing that's important is that this parasite has a specific lining on the outside called a morosite lining. And that doesn't mean much to anyone, but the bottom line is we know what the lining is, we know what it's made out of, because it's got to be made from more of a carbohydrate or protein or fat. Once we know that, then we can make sure the right nutrients, or in the drug world, the right drugs go in to fix the problem, right?
Okay.
And so it's very specific. This one is really based on very specific proteins that make up its lining. And then the helmets can actually be seen. Like
I'm looking at a picture of one right now, and I just don't like the
We'll
way
put it
looks.
up on the screen.
It's terrible.
And so these are the things like the flatworms, the things like that we talked about, that some people
I do not
talk about in their diet or actually have chosen to put in. And a lot of people are affected by these.
So 46. Wow. 46 million.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's 14% of the US.
Absolutely. And so, the thing is that they can live, 15 to 20 years, these parasites, the helmets in the body. So they can be with you long term, right? Longer than your animals.
Terrible idea. That's terrible.
So even if you don't like animals, some people
maybe that's why.
I got enough animals.
Maybe it's why you don't like animals. You know what I mean? You have this subconscious thing happening. Anyways, okay.
And so their membrane of the helmets is very specific, and like even malaria parasites, things like that. And again, these are more of a protein membrane, so we use things like protease, right? That breaks down protein. If we'll send in them, then we're in good shape. And then there's ectoparasites, and these two can be seen. And they're about the size of like a sesame seed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they actually can see these ectoparasites. And these are ones that look more like bugs.
Wait, how big are the other ones?
The helmet you can see, they can be long. They can be the worms that people see.
Okay.
Right? And so they definitely can be seen bigger because they can grow. But the ectoparasites are about sesame seed size. And
they look kind of like a cockroach.
Yeah, like a little cockroach, and it affects quite a few, not as many people, right?
Yep.
And so we know that it affects up to 300,000 or 400,000 people, so it's not
actually much less.
It is much less. Yeah. But these, come from like ticks, fleas, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's ectoparasite. But the thing with it, it's an exoskeleton, and it's made from something called chitosan, which is a fat.
Oh,
A fat and
okay.
a carbohydrate, kind of a mixture type thing.
Okay.
And so why do we go through all that? Is once we know what the outside of the parasite is, we can give the right, enzymes, nutrients, phytonutrients from
Right.
different herbs to go in and penetrate it and destroy them. So we have a lot of data.
Yeah, we do. So how about this data?
I like that transition.
So thanks. Currently, 110 million people are dealing with parasites in the United States.
That's a lot.
So that's 1 in 3 people. If we had a third person sitting right here, one of us
As a
is
parasite.
probably dealing with a parasite.
Absolutely.
It's you.
It's
I'm just kidding. It's probably me.
And so that's why you should do blood work too, because you're like, do I have a parasite or not? Look at your eosinophil count. That's a good way to know. A lot of people don't do blood work, and we highly recommend.
Highly recommend blood work.
Once every at least 6 months.
And if you're feeling out of whack, more often.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so our clients, we do probably every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say once a quarter. Yeah.
And super important. So 1 in 3 Americans have a parasite. And obviously, if you go around and ask Americans, they'll say no. So again, a lot of them are just in there doing, eating, taking up space, but they'll eventually cause issues. And so you want to, if nothing else, tired.
Yeah. So how do we destroy, and actually excessively tired, like
Excessively.
tired. So how do we destroy parasites? So let's get into each one.
Yeah, so the bottom line comes to, I mentioned, what are they made out of, so we can get in there, right? The proteins or the protozoas, the helminths, the proteins that affect that membrane, that plasma membrane, and then the ectoparasites, more of the carbohydrate.
Okay, so we're talking about the enzymes that can break them down.
Yep.
From the outside, and then so
let's
those
talk
are
about the
enzyme
outside.
specific,
Yeah.
right? And then so nutrition's to destroy
There you
parasites. Eating more garlic, pumpkin seeds, pomegranates, beets, and carrots. They've all been used to treat parasites. Why? What is it about those things?
So each of those, the garlic, the pumpkin seeds, my favorite, obviously the pomegranates and the beets, are using things called nitrates. They're things that we use that dilate the blood vessels, but they actually destroy parasites in the system. They're a specific phytonutrient that is in certain foods that is toxic to parasites.
Love that idea.
Yeah, so it's really
Yeah.
cool. Things that are most beneficial to us are toxic to parasites.
Really cool.
And so the things that are most detrimental to us that we should be eating, the sugars, the processed foods, the fried fats, is what they live on.
That most of us are consuming. Yeah. So in one study, researchers found that a mixture of honey and papaya seeds cleared stools of parasites in 23 out of 30 subjects. That is cool.
Yeah, and the reason is papaya contains an enzyme called papain, and papain is a carbohydrate digesting enzyme. So in this case, the parasites that had more of that carbohydrate type of skeleton to destroyed with them. So we know that nutritionally, if before we even talk about supplements and the great research on the nutrients to be able to destroy them, that the cleaner your diet, the less processed foods, the less processed sugar, fried fats, chemically laden foods that you have, the better chance that if there was a parasite that we both consumed food, or we both went to out of a country and the parasites came in us, doesn't mean that they're going to take up host,
Right?
Because if our diet's clean enough, they come in and they have no food, and they get destroyed and go on out, or just get killed. But
Right.
if we're feeding them with the junk food, that's the difference between whether it takes up host or not.
Got it. So also the thought of making sure you clean your fruits and vegetables well, and we've already discussed that in a previous podcast. And then also drink your water, because once you are destroying those parasites, right, we need to flush them out. So really on top of your water. He knows I track it, so he's in trouble for that.
All right,
Anyways, okay.
I can put it back.
So gross.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about nutrients now, micronutrients. So we talk about macro and micro. Macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats, and how clean they are determines whether you destroy parasites or even get them, right?
Right.
Most of the time you just don't even get them because you're eating clean.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the micronutrients of specific nutrients like the herbs and the vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients that destroy them. And there's such great research on this. That's why we have such a high success of destroying parasites naturally in the body. Black walnut's probably one of the most famous ones
Mm-hmm.
that help with parasites. I have a lot of research on it.
Okay.
One that's very specific called wormwood, so rightfully named.
Okay.
And it was actually named that because of that's what it does. It destroys worms.
Okay.
And the helminth parasite specifically.
Okay.
The black walnut, the research on it for decades and decades. In fact, in a lot of countries.
Like legit black walnut?
Yeah.
Wow.
Black walnut.
Yeah.
And they call them jugulants. And basically, we know that in a lot of countries to where parasites are prevalent, meaning really bad prevalent, that they just naturally eat a bunch of it because they know they're going to constantly need to be destroying them. Okay. And then we talked about
the pineapple and papaya.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the enzymes that are present within pineapple and papaya.
Yep. The enzymes destroy them, and the pineapple and papaya both have very specific enzymes in them.
Bromelain and papain.
Yep, bromelain in the pineapple, papain. And so for a long time, before we were able to grow our enzymes very specific, like protease for protein, or like amylase for carbohydrate, that's all we had were pineapple and papaya enzymes, which are great. And but we've seen that with parasites that they're really, really powerful because they're nature's way of destroying parasites, and that's really critical. So they need to be broken down, though. They need to be delivered, and that's probably the difference with some of these parasite products on the market, is to understand that it isn't the black walnut that does it, right? It's not the pomegranate that does it, the papaya. It's either the enzymes or the phytonutrients within those. And if you don't break them down, digest them, you're not going to deliver the chemicals that destroy the parasites. And so we want to make sure that we pre-digest those. And that's one thing that we're really big on, is pre-digesting, fermenting those nutrients so that they can penetrate the walls of the parasites and destroy them. And so let's
Parasite protocol.
Let's kind of go through that really quickly. Why don't you talk about the nutrition one more time?
Okay. So we have the importance of beets, pomegranates, raw garlic. What else was there?
Pumpkin seeds.
Pumpkin seeds.
Carrots.
And then honey and
papaya. Yeah. Honey and papaya mixture was one I think that you mentioned in that study that was really good.
And then specific protocols with the supplements that we make and carry. Let's hit those.
Optipara Parasite, right? And that's the one that has all those ingredients, the black walnut, and the wormwood, and all those that are in it. Optipara, and then we'll use our enzyme product called Optimal Acute,
which has the proteolytic enzymes.
Enzymes in it. And then we'll recommend some things that help with cleansing the body, because once you destroy them, you want to get them out, right? You want to go through and use some of the liver cleansing herbs and stuff that we have. So we have something called soft cleanse. So Optipara, an enzyme product like Acute, and then a cleanse like our soft cleanse. That's our protocol.
And then fruit and veggie powder if you're looking to add some more antioxidant support.
Absolutely. So I think that's the parasite protocols. Clean up your diet, get the junk out of it. And a lot of people that don't do a lot of blood work that we talked about, or not doing a lot of stool samples, is once every quarter or at least twice a year, they'll go through a bottle of whatever company product they want that has those ingredients in it, or Optipara, right?
It's just an ultimate cleanse,
just as doing a cleanse, and that the way to keep their body cleansed out. And I think that's a very good way to go.
So here's the question: if you went through like a bottle of Optipara and you didn't have a parasite, is that going to cause some type of issue?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it will cause an issue. The issue is just cleansing your body.
The issue is you're going to get healthy.
Good issue.
You're going to feel better. Anyways,
feel better. And that's a great thing about health, nutrition, even supplementation with whole foods. Is worst case scenario, you're going to be better off. Worst cases, you're going to be better, right? Like even if someone misdiagnoses and they give you vitamin D and you needed magnesium, you're still going to get benefit from vitamin D, right? And so all those cool things.
Right.
So today's is a little different, but we really see a big issue. And when we see issues with our clients and the doctors tell us that their patients all around the nation are experiencing something greater than normal, like this is this huge, infestation, if you would, of parasites, we'll want to talk about them. In Fitfam is a different angle because it's important for your family, important to know what's going on, and maybe have issues with some of your kids and that you're like, man, we can't find the answer to it. Well, you know what? Let's work on the diet. Let's work on that. I found that there's some people that would not adhere to the diet of changing their diet, like they're having a hard time, until we found out they had a parasite.
That is true.
And all of a sudden they changed.
A parasite is a great motivator for some reason.
Yeah, maybe we should have told that to Parasite before, that type thing.
That's funny.
And so again, let us know. Hopefully this is helpful. Let us know what you're looking for and would like us to talk about, because we're in the holistic field. We go through fitness, focused, intense thought, nutrition, exercise, and supplementation. It's quite broad, and we love to get your input on it.
But these are fun, doing the specifics.
So again, thanks for joining us. I look forward to the next episode. As always, it's Miss Natural Olympia Hilary.
And this is Doug, the Formulator. See you next time.
Keep chewing.